Hi everyone! My name is Crystal Martinez, one of the social media ambassadors for Cuesta College. I am currently a second-year transfer student working on my last semester at Cuesta before transferring to a four-year school to get a sociology and social work degree. This semester, we are trying something new, a segment called Questions with a Counselor. For many students looking to transfer, or for those who have already completed the process, we have more than likely found ourselves to have a ton of questions. Here at Cuesta, academic counselors and our transfer center do everything in their power to prepare students for transfer. Since all of us students know that we might not have the time to make an appointment or to join drop-in times, this video is aimed to answer some more of the common questions students have about the process. Today, we are joined by Kate Porter, who a lot of us may know from the Cuesta Transfer Center, and she will be giving us insight on those questions a lot of us may have. Thanks again for joining us, Kate. The first question I have is, can anything be done if a student does not pass their university's required course?
If a student is in their final semester at Cuesta and they are struggling in a course, then I would encourage them to reach out to the Student Success Center as soon as possible to see about getting help so that they can hopefully ultimately pass that class. If they don't pass the course, then it can be detrimental towards their admission. So as soon as final grades are posted, they would want to notify the university admissions office at the school that they're accepted at and let them know. If a student is not in their final year yet and they do not pass a required course, then they can repeat that course, and when they receive a passing grade, that will replace the former grade that was not passing.
What can a student do if they do not get accepted to their top school of choice?
I think it's always important that students give themselves as many options as possible. So when a student is applying to campuses, I recommend that they cast their net wide, so to speak, and apply to as many schools as they can afford to. I always recommend having a dream school that students apply to, and then 2 or 3 campuses that the student and their counselor feel pretty certain that they could be admitted at. And then it's always good to have a backup plan, a school that you're confident that you can get into that would be a great backup choice if you're not admitted at your top schools. Also, students could look into appealing if they are denied admission. I would recommend that a student reaches out to the University Transfer Center as soon as they're denied admission, and then we can advise them on how to appeal and write an appeal letter to a university.
Once a student transfers out of Cuesta, can they still come back and take summer courses?
When a student completes their final year at Cuesta and all of their transfer requirements, they can certainly still take a class that summer term for fun if they want to. It's important for students to know, though, that in most cases, transfer requirements must be met by the end of the spring term prior to that fall transfer. So even if they do take a course during that summer, it will not necessarily be used towards admissions requirements, but it still could potentially transfer for credit.
What should a student do if they're taking a course that they didn't report on their transfer application?
So when students apply to CSU and UC campuses, they'll fill out their general application for admission and submit it in November online. And then in January, they're asked to go back in and update their application with their fall grades and their spring schedule. So at that point, it would be great if students have their spring schedule set and they know which classes they're taking so they can accurately report that in the January transfer academic update. If after that update's been submitted, a student adds a course to their schedule, it's usually not going to be a situation that would impact a student's admission status at all. But I do think it's a good idea that students reach out to their CSU or UC university admissions offices and just let them know if they have changed that spring schedule at all.
I was also curious, can you elaborate on what a supplemental application is? Is it completed through the CSU website? Do all schools need a supplemental application to be completed? And if a student does miss the deadline for a supplemental application, is their application automatically disregarded from that university?
Some CSU and UC campuses do have a second part to the admission process after that first application is submitted in November. And it's really important that students check their emails often after submitting their university applications, because if the campus does require a supplemental application, they will notify the student of that by email. And then usually a student will log into a portal and find the supplemental application for that university inside the portal. This last year, there were 3 CSUs that had supplemental applications: San Diego State, San Jose State, and CSU Long Beach. And UC Berkeley does have a supplemental application every year. So many CSUs and UCs do not require that step as part of the application process. There are a few other CSUs that for certain majors, like nursing majors, they might require a supplemental application. So it is very important that students keep a watchful eye on their email and notice the dates and deadlines when those applications need to be submitted, because if they do miss the deadline, then usually the student will not be eligible for admission any longer.
Thank you for that answer. My next question is, what is the CSU transfer guarantee?
So the only guaranteed admission program for the California State University is through earning an ADT, which stands for an associate degree for transfer. If a student earns an associate degree for transfer in a specific major and they apply to California State University campuses that accept that ADT, then one of the perks of earning the ADT is that the student is given guaranteed admission at one CSU campus. And it might not be one of the campuses that they had originally applied to. If a student is denied admission at all the campuses that they applied to with their ADT, then part of the guarantee is that the student will be sent an email asking them where they would like their application redirected to. And they will be given a list of choices of CSU campuses that still have space left in that program at the campus. And that's really the only guaranteed admission program that CSUs offer.
Can students transfer with more than 60 credits?
60 transferable credits are required for a student to transfer to a CSU or a UC as a junior. And ideally, we want students to transfer into their university into the upper division standing. So having that 60 transferable credits is really important. But students are allowed to transfer a maximum of 70 credits to apply towards their bachelor's degree at both the CSU and UC systems. So anywhere between the 60 and 70 credit range is ideal. For out-of-state universities and public colleges or universities, it's important for students to reach out to the admissions offices for those schools, because they can have completely different credit requirements for transfer and also credit limitations for how many credits a student can transfer for their bachelor's degree.
What is the difference between an AA and an AAT? Can students apply to schools with only an AA?
At Cuesta, we offer general associate's degrees, which are AA degrees, or an Associate of Arts, or an AS degree, which is an Associate of Science. And typically, students earning these degrees do not have the goal of transfer. They want to earn their associate's degree and then go on to work in that field ultimately. Associate degrees for transfer, we call them ADTs, and there are AATs, which are Associate of Arts for transfer, and also ASTs, Associate of Science for transfer degrees. And these were degrees that were created by the California State University system in partnership with California community colleges to ensure students a seamless transfer into their major at the California State University. So if a student has a transfer goal in mind and wants to go to a California State University, I highly recommend looking to see if there is an ADT in their major. And the ADT also has certain perks for some California State universities. It has a guaranteed admission option, and it also can offer a slight GPA bump for certain impacted campuses. So there are a lot of benefits to earning an ADT.
My final question for you is, can a student still change their major after they have completed their application for transfer?
When a student applies to transfer to the university, they're applying into a specific major at that university. So it's really important that a student's decided on their major at that point. And if a student is undecided or debating between two majors or questioning whether a major is the right fit for them, I would love to invite them to come to our University Transfer Career Center website, and we have assessments available for students to use to help explore different majors. And we also have counselors students can talk with to decide on the best major fit. After being admitted at a university, if a student wants to try to transfer or to change their major after transfer, then really they'll want to talk to the university admissions representative and see what the likelihood is of that. I know some universities, they say it's pretty hard for students to change their major after transferring.
Awesome. Thank you for all your answers, and thank you for joining us today, Kate.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you taking the time to ask your questions, and I hope these answers will be useful to students that view this interview.
Thank you so much to everyone for watching this video. We hope that some of what was discussed today answered questions you may have found yourself having. Students, please don't forget, if you do have any questions in particular to your own transfer journey, to schedule an appointment or to attend drop-in hours with the Transfer Center. More information, such as upcoming workshops and the transfer process itself, can be found on the Cuesta website. Thanks again, everyone.